the FDA has a problem with you making health claims. And, oh, by the way, if you want to get registered as a medical device, there's 3 different categories, third being the most cast iron. But you have to pay them a fee to have your product registered as a medical device, and it could cost you millions of dollars. I mean, so it doesn't matter what it is. It's the absolute control. I suggested to this rep for this company, I said, why don't you go after them under the RICO Act, the racketeering, because that's what this is. They try to bleed you out by challenging you in court, bleeding you dry through attorneys, or giving you such a hard time that it's hard to sell your product in an open market. They try to
and they find against you arbitrarily.
There you go. They'll try to drain you out by way of sales and hoping you'll dry up and blow away. Or they'll get you with the hefty registration and fees. And I mean, it's a racket is what it is. So, until we disconnect the special interest money, the corporate money, from these politicians, don't ever expect any of these clowns to go to bat for you for entrepreneurship, new ideas, anything out there, because the moneyed interests have it locked down, as well as the damn judges themselves.
Well, the thing is hearing talking to a deputy about a couple of weeks ago. A lot of people own cattle around here in Texas, in my area of Texas, and they're talking about sheriffs had to come out because Monsanto was sticking needles in their cow, trespassing on their property.
Mm-hmm.
And some of these ranchers are going, somebody is going to get killed.
Yeah.
Can you buy raw milk in Texas?
I don't know. I haven't tried.
At the farmer's market, but it's like, Robbie, it's like you said. It's like buying something illegal like hooch, moonshine.
Yeah. I mean, she told me. I go, why? It feels like I'm buying something illegal. Why don't you have it in the display case? She says we're not allowed to put it in the display case. We have to keep it in the back.
Yeah. Yep.
This is raw milk.
And my kids were raised on raw milk.
I was as well.
I was raised on raw milk.
I was as well. My grandmother used to make what we used to call ice cream butter out of the butter fat that was about 2-3 inches on the top of the jug.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man. And Bob, were you harmed by that?
Not at all.
I wasn't.
I've never been sick in my life except for the flu.
I disagree with that.
Disagree with what?
That Bob wasn't harmed by it.
Bob wasn't what?
Harmed by it.
Oh, really?
No wonder Rhodesia.
What perception?
What? No wonder Rhodesia was in such turmoil. You people that were there can't even get along with each other. My gosh, George,
well,
thank you for your call. Dave in Texas. Hello, Dave.
Afternoon, gentlemen.
Hi.
Long time. Good to hear from you again. I was going to point out something. A happy Tax Day Eve here.
Oh, that's right. I got to do my obligatory tomorrow on the air. Steve Voss, stick the tax forms where the sun don't shine. Thank you for reminding me.
Yeah, they can bury them for all I care.
Yeah.
I was going to point out a couple of things on mine on the issue. Take this opportunity to do so. No capitation or other direct tax shall be laid unless in proportion to the census or enumeration herein before directed to be taken. It's in the Constitution, Article 2, Article 1, in the back end of Section 8, or Section 9, actually. Anyway, my point being, the unratified 16th Amendment is unconstitutional. It violates the constitutional prohibition against direct tax, or direct capitation tax, is in effect what it arguably is. And we need to repeal it. We also do need to repeal the Federal Reserve System, and we need to go back to true gold and silver asset-backed money supply so that states, if they pay apportionment of revenues only for what they want and agree to have Congress do beyond the 10th Amendment restrictions instead of violating the 10th Amendment restrictions.
Dave, could you imagine this country if we didn't have the usury system called the Federal Reserve? Okay? We had an honest and sound money, and we were once again a nation of savers, not spending through the inflationary interest stuff. Could you imagine what kind of country we would have if we had a limited government, federal government, that stayed in its box, didn't tax the snot out of you in any which way, form, or fashion they possibly could you imagine what this country would look like? And
yes, I can. I'm calling for this country to eventually get back to doing exactly that. Remember those constitutional proposals I gave you a while back, last year?
Yeah.
I hope you still have a copy of it, because that's what I'm for. That's my agenda. I'm still for it. And I eventually want to help bring that about.
Get a couple of. I'll tell you what you do. Get a couple 100,000 people to be in agreement with you, and then we'll go march on Washington D.C. and we'll go sit in our Congress critters' laps.
We're going to
until
have to
they do
something. We eventually have to take back. What we ultimately need to do is take back control of state legislatures and county sheriff's offices before we can control the enforcement of law in the counties. If we had control of the county sheriff's offices, and if we in the Patriot Movement had control of a sufficient majority of state legislatures, we could propose those amendment ideas and ratify them to the Constitution and enforce strict constructionist government and do an end to all this, and allow, if the states agreed to pay apportionment of any revenue for anything they want, they would have asset-backed money to do it with.
Dave, you're going to go on for the next 10 minutes. Do you have a point or a question? And be brief.
Well, that basically is my point. My question for Bob, since he's here today, is how does he see the current economic climate affecting the way it is now with the issue of inflation versus deflation? I'm actually one who believes we're facing a situation.
Okay, hold on. Is there, Dave, is there a question there that Bob can respond to?
Right. Yeah, I'm giving it to you.
No, you're giving me a commentary. Ask the question, let him respond, and then we can continue.
Yeah, it's a deflation-inflation question.
Okay, and the answer is, for the last 5 years, major nations throughout the world have all had the same problem, and that's asset deflation. And how they've challenged that is by creating money and credit at a rate of 14% annually. Recent figures are around 18%, up from like 12% just 2 or 3 months ago. And they will continue to do that also by monetizing. In fact, Mr. Bernanke made a speech at Morehouse College yesterday, or was it today? I forget.
Today.
It was today. And he said that they're not going to let inflation get out of hand. And, of course, that doesn't mean anything. It's just another lie. But inflation will continue at higher levels until the people who are fighting inflation, which is the Fed and other central banks, decide they're going to pull the plug and turn this inflationary depression into a deflationary depression, and that's somewhere down the line.
All right, Dave. I hope that. And Dave, I don't mean to be cruel to you, but
right.
You know, you come up and you're loaded for bear here, and if I didn't stop you, you'd go on for 20 minutes straight, and you know that you can do that. And I'm not saying your information's bad; it's rather good information, but in this format, it's kind of hard to squeeze that in.
Okay, can I ask one quick question?
Sure.
Question on our statement. It's on the unemployment rate. Mm-hmm. How does Bob see the unemployment rate, given the fact that there's so much loss to the economy to the high unemployment rate, affecting spending and then that effect on the inflation aspect of the economy and the ability to either grow the economy or not as a result?
Well, it's not. The thing that's going to grow the economy is the infusions of money and credit. And on the other hand, unemployment on a U6 basis based on 1980's formula is somewhere between 19.2 and 19.8%. It'll be over 22 by the end of the year, and next year it'll be 35%. And to show you what that's doing, federal tax receipts for the month of March fell 27.3% year on year, which means the Fed is going to have to buy even more paper from the Treasury and monetize it. And that's an ongoing situation. They asked for $300 billion that they want to do. That figure will be $600 to $1 trillion before the year's out, and it'll be somewhere between $4 and $10 trillion over the next 3 years.
You know, Bob, today, Barack Obama. Gosh.
No, call him by his right name.
By the way, if you Google Barry Sartoro, it'll take you to the White House website. Now, what does that tell you?
It means that Barry is probably the janitor at the White
House. He actually said today that his critics, there's people out there that are saying that we should curtail the size of government and spending. And he said, I am opposed to that. And I'm thinking about it. Bob, any if we break this down to household expenditures, if I try to spend out of the checkbook more money than I have in the checkbook, I go to jail for kiting checks. But it's now the favored breeze blowing through Washington, D.C., that somehow that we're authorized, because of this crisis, to spend into eternity to try to get rid of our debt with borrowing more money. And he's answering that's one of the issues. He said, I'm taking this head on, rather than reducing the size of government.
Well, can I add to that?
Please do.
Because he also came up and answered his own question. I get all these comments from people saying, why don't we just give the money to the people? And he made the argument that if I give $1 to the bank can create $10 more.
Yeah, fractionalized. You caught that as well. Fractionalized reserve.
Yeah.
Yeah.